Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. If you're loving what you're hearing on the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, go out and tell 2 friends today. Show them how easy it is to subscribe to the show. Real Estate Espresso Podcast is available on more than 20 different platforms, and wherever you listen to podcasts, you're sure to find the Real Estate Espresso Podcast. Go spread the love around. Why keep all this goodness to yourself? On today's show, we're talking about one of the traps the market might be luring investors with. When you make an investment in real property, it's often majority funded by permanent financing, usually amortized over a long time, like 20 to 30 years. But if the market window for your demand is short term, then you're at risk of making a bad investment. I'm hearing reports that cottages and other similar vacation properties are already fully booked for next summer, and some investors I've spoken with have indicated a desire to purchase a vacation property and rent it out when not in use. They point to the strong demand as rationale for the investment. The fact is, we don't know what demand will look like in a year or 2 or 5. We know that global travel is down 90% due to the pandemic, and people are desperate for a getaway. They're booking accommodations within driving distance of home that allow for them to remain socially isolated. In a pandemic environment, this all makes perfect sense. Even our own short-term rental portfolio has continued to experience strong demand well into the coming year. But we expect the pandemic will eventually come to an end. It won't be in the next few months. It'll take much of 2021 before enough of the population is immunized for these restrictions on social activities to be eliminated. Israel stands alone in the world as having the most aggressive rollout of vaccines of any nation. They've already immunized 20% of the population in just a few weeks and expect to complete the entire population over 16 years of age before the end of March. The rollout in the US, Canada, Europe is looking like it's going to be well into the 4th quarter before the majority of the population is immunized. Could be even longer. I'm expecting 2021 to look an awful lot like 2020 in terms of travel and leisure. Cruise ships probably won't be sailing anytime in 2021, and if they do, it will be later in the year. Back in 2019, the cruise industry had nearly 30 million passengers, majority of them from North America. There's all these tourists who are looking for a different vacation this year. But eventually, many will return to cruise ships, to beach resorts in the islands, to the bus tour through Asia, and to the luxury cottages in the middle of a game reserve in Africa or Australia. All of these experiences are off limits for many because the high risk of infection that comes with international travel or outright travel restrictions. So what happens to all those cottages that are fully booked this year when people return to traveling? What will bookings look like in 2022 and 2023 and beyond? I think back to the lean years at ski resorts that built excess capacity. Many of those condo units sat empty for much of the year. They were initially marketed as great investments, and in retrospect, they turned out to be very poor investments. Yes, they look great again in 2020 and perhaps in 2021, but it took a black swan event like a global pandemic to make that investment viable. Is that really a good strategy? So if you currently own a vacation property and you want to make a small incremental investment to maximize the revenue for that property, I say go for it. Maybe you want to upgrade the furniture and the interior finishes so you can command a higher price in the market. That's a good move. Many people who have been asked to work from home have tired of being in the same apartment for months. Some have rationalized they can truly work from anywhere, so why do they need to be stuck at home? They can rent a beach house for a few months. As long as it's got a good internet connection, they get their work done. Who cares where they're located? This too is driving demand for furnished rentals in the short term. But if you're an investor looking to make a major investment with a 25 or 30-year commitment, how do you know if demand for your product is going to be there in a year from now or 5? After all, just as quickly as conditions change this year, they could change again next year. I would go back to the market conditions of 2017 and 2018 as a better indicator of what market demand might look like in the post-COVID environment. You want to use market analysis tools like All the Rooms or AirDNA to determine both demand and pricing for your local market before you make an investment. As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.